Now, the role of culture. One of the things, for me, culture is important. Inclusion, okay, let me speak to two sides, inclusion and personality.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
Where do these fit in to include culture? I appreciate that there are cultural differences. Coaches who may function within industrial settings, within organizations that might have teams that they coach, they would focus, and when I'm in that context, the focus would be on the two areas, inclusion and personality. Now, values are part of every individual. Values show up in every culture. If you have a team that is diverse, you're going to be looking at creating inclusive practices within that group context that will allow the team to function optimally and effectively. That will allow the individual, for example, who let's say is from the Middle East, to be able to voice their perspectives, their ideas about different things, even in a British context that has other individuals from someone from Africa, two Europeans a part of that team, someone else from the Caribbean, whatever the mix. It is about being open enough to ensure that the inclusion is covered. But listen to this now, the inclusion within itself allows for diversity, allows for the person's cultural influence. You can have inclusion that looks just as an outer show, meaning we have someone who wears a headscarf, we have someone who is a different complexion, we have someone who is more whatever, a different complexion. We have someone who, and we put these pictures in the media to say, see, we are so diverse and inclusive. But now let's go to inclusion of the mind. How well is an organization structured to receive how someone from the Middle East, someone from Australia, someone from the Americas, someone from the Caribbean, and their thought process about problem solving, their thought process about how we can address something, how much is that being incorporated? Now, my job is to work with the leader in that organization to get them to explore, for example, how do I regard diversity of mind when I'm trying to cultivate inclusion within my workforce? And so that will then take in the cultural practices of different places across the world, and depending on how diverse the team is. So it's inclusion in a special type of way. So for that leader, we might be going through things like what we call a DISC, a personality assessment. And from this personality assessment, it is looking at how dominant are you? How compliant are you? How influential are you? What kind of individual are you in your personality? How does that then play into how you relate to people? How does that play into how you would relate with a team? How does that play into how you show up as a team member? And these kinds of settings require leadership. This is the reason we have governmental leaderships. Organizations have their top managers and their top leaders and their executives and their coordinators and all these top people. Their job it is to pool people together with the understanding of values, with the understanding of differences in personality, with the understanding of differences in cultural context, and being able to creatively weave all of this together to create something where people can feel a sense of belonging, have their voices heard, make their contribution. It can be complex, a lot to cover, but many organizations are taking on the concept of having either coaching available for their teams or having coaching available for their leaders and managers so that they can craft into the organizations the things they want. It takes time. We're evolving. We're getting there in these kinds of thinkings. Some organizations definitely do better than others, but for the most part, we're getting there. We're getting there. And it's the same things. It's people management, coaching, and you can have your one-to-one individual self-management, self-leadership, evolving into being the best leader of self that you can be. And so that's one way within an organization that the issue of culture can be factored in. Looking at inclusion, but not just inclusion of the superficial or outer things, but inclusion of the mind. How do people do things within their culture? And then looking at personality and value systems. How do we incorporate those into what we're doing? So it really boils down to what is the intention and what is the motive? What is the need for group coaching? Group coaching, from my perspective, focuses on, for example, my program might be for a group of women who have experienced similar challenges. And so we come together in a way where, yes, it is coaching, but it creates the opportunity for them to learn from each other in a structure and in a setting where there is this shared experience, play out in slightly different ways for some, but it is defined in a similar way. And from that encounter, they are being coached, yes, being coached as a group, yes, but have the support of each other, learning from each other, gaining strategies from each other as they go through the process. It allows people to have their voice again. Okay, they have that support. So from that angle, that there's group, but there can be group in, like I said before, organizations, and it just depends on where you are. But my group programs are focused on empowering women. Listen, when I transitioned into coaching, I felt a strong pull inside me that this is where you need to be going now. It doesn't matter where in the world I lived. The time was right. I got to a stage where I was thinking about, I wasn't even thinking so much about next steps. Something woke up inside me and pulled me towards this aspect of my calling. When you're a high achiever like myself, you can fit in anywhere because you've got the skill set. You're a quick learner. You can pick up on anything and do it with excellence anywhere. But we're all still born with a particular thing or sets of things that we're designed to do, that we're designed to fulfill in some way. We have the freedom of choice. God is so good in that way. We have the freedom of choice of how we want to. And this is part of the reason, yes, I went into education and I went into mentoring and I went into guidance and counseling, and now I'm gone into coaching, and they have similar aspects to them because I'm here to serve humanity in a way that helps people solve their problems and get to a place of deeper self-knowledge and understanding, unlock their voices, take action for the things that are important to them, and show up in the world to help those they are here to help. What keeps me going? Just the fact that I believe the Father up in heaven who created the universe, the creator of the universe, has woken up in me what he wants me to focus on at this stage of my life. And he has sold me the understanding that this has the power to change people's lives for the better. I've been in education, and if children learn something in a way that is not right, the research shows that it will take you a minimum of 7 attempts of reteaching the new thing before it begins to stick. With coaching, the moment someone comes to that eureka moment, the moment where I told you like, I've been believing this and it's not true. The change is instant. It's instant. Yes, you may have to keep reminding the 16-year-old self that you're not there anymore. It's 26-year-old self that's in charge. However, that change is enough. That eureka moment is enough. The change in lives, the transformation, and the ability for that to influence generation after generation after generation, and knowing that doing what I'm called to do pleases the creator of the universe, that's what keeps me going. What's the last thing I would like to say? Listen, give yourself the opportunity to evolve into becoming the best version of you. You are worth it. You are worth it. And whether that is coaching, whether that is just detaching from probably social media for a while, intervals, finding a mentor, talking with somebody in the community who is older, give yourself the opportunity to uncover who you really, really are so that you can walk more fully into who you are and experience fulfillment and experience deep contentment. It's worth the journey. It really is.
If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.